Coming up next on Meet the Farmer TV.
This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Nelly Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design.
Today on Meet the Farmer TV, Richard Bean and Double H Farm.
Welcome to Double H Farm on this beautiful wintry day. To be a farmer, it takes more skill than being a doctor. We have to know more and be able to control more and able to do more than a doctor has to. There's going to be a food shortage in the near future, and nobody even has a clue that it's coming. I mean, some of the people who do have a clue are the farmers and some of the people who pay attention to the food system, but all these rules and regulations are just going to interfere with everybody's ability to produce food. And what's the right answer? Every good sustainable food movement is around a liberal arts college. Mm-hmm. And that is something that says something about the thinking of those kind of people. And it washes over. It's not necessarily every person, but every person you talk to, they talk about it. And it becomes an important part of everyday conversation. We don't have that now. It's not on the TV like it needs to be. They're not talking about it. When we do talk about it, sometimes it actually can be pretty good. Katie Couric had a special on last February about the problem with antibiotic-resistant bacteria in a hog house. Mm-hmm. And the chicken houses. And I thought it was the greatest show, and it was on CBS and national TV. I called the Salatins right away. I said, this is terrific. This is what you guys created. Uh-huh. Because somebody on a big level is talking about the real problems. I thought she'd be fired the next day.
Yeah.
But of course, it was all planned, so they actually did know that was going to happen. But that was a good thing, and I think that's going to happen. That's going to happen, but can it happen fast enough?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to have food shortages before that? I'm sure. Are we going to have riots? I'm sure. We're going to have some real ugliness. It'll be chaos. It'll be anarchy. Buy local is good, of course. And it's not going to go away, but feeding our neighbors is even more cool because it's even closer. There's so many twists and turns to the whole program, and I think some are going to shake out, some of them are going to go away, but we're going to need to have some food produced. And Ara said something that's extremely important. He's appreciated. Farmers have not been appreciated for the longest time. And we have a culture that thinks we're slaves to them.
So that's really the biggest thing, is to get the American public to appreciate the farmer.
If we got that whole issue would mushroom. We'd have people telling their congressmen we need these farmers to be supported, and it wouldn't be just us farmers doing all the talking. The food safety bills, who was doing all the complaining? Us little farmers, probably, because we could see what was going to happen. The rest of the people didn't really get an idea. They actually thought they're going to protect us. They're going to protect us.
Yeah. So we really kind of got four main things, and get the public to appreciate the farmers, maintain some diversity. Let's get the government out of the we can regulate ourselves out of the problem mode, and really just kind of bring that local focus back around full circle to appreciating the farmer.
Yeah, I'd say those four. I'm glad you didn't say price, because that would come with it by automatic.
Yeah, you got to be competitive, but
yeah.
That's
one of the reasons.
But people buy fancy cars as well as simple cars.
And people need a choice. And they can buy a cabbage or they can buy an heirloom tomato.
We believe that good food production, good farming should be so aesthetically, aromatically, sensually romantic that it can be embedded in anyone's backyard. Right. Ultimately, if it stinks or is unsightly or is repugnant to the point where somebody doesn't want it in their backyard, why would you want it on your plate?
Right.
And ultimately, the only way to actually have food safety is to have that integrity of transparency that only comes when people want to get close to their food, which includes getting close to it on the farm. I did a presentation in Arkansas. I had a colonel and 4 guys come over from the Army base there, listen to my presentation, and the colonel came up to me afterwards. He says, you know what, we're getting ready to be shipped out to Afghanistan to do agricultural, rural, economic development. And you know what we're gonna do? He said, we're gonna take machines over there that those people can't fix. We're gonna give them seeds for plants that they don't know how to grow and don't want to grow and don't need, that will require water and petroleum and fertilizers that they can't afford and can't acquire. He just went down this list. And he said, you know, what we need to be doing is we need to be giving them, we need to be teaching them about root cellars and feeding their own villages and indigenous crops and permaculture and mulching and carbon, use of carbon, biomass and this sort of thing. He said, but that won't be what we do. And how many people, Americans, feel so good about the help that we're doing, I guess my point is that yes, I'm confident that we can help them. I think the first thing we need to do to help, though, is to sit down and listen for a year. And that's what nobody's willing to do. Nobody's willing to go and listen any more than the Europeans who came into this valley in the 1700s, late 1600s, were listening to Native Americans who had built this wonderful herbivore bird pastoral landscape with predation, herbivores, and multispeciation and movement. They didn't, these Germans and our forebears, English, didn't sit down and ask them, how did you do this? No, they brought their European plow and disc and short-term seeds and annual cropping and ripped up the valley here, and it'll never be the same. I guess on that standpoint, I would just say that there are benchmarks of success in farming like in any other business, and many farmers are not good businessmen. They don't run it like a business. They run it more like a ministry maybe, or a something that I'm beholden to, as opposed to a business. Where ultimately what we want to do is make decisions. Our decisions are based on, we want healthier immune systems, not sicker immune or weaker immune systems. That's one. Number one, we want more dancing earthworms. If we've got dancing, copulating earthworms, everything kind of works. All right. We want more just innate health in the landscape. We want diversity. We want a better water cycle on the farm. We want to see springs run better. We want to see fewer floods, less drought. So we're building forgiveness into the landscape because nature is not always an easy taskmaster. It's hot, dry, flood, wind, whatever. And so part of our responsibility as stewards is to build what I call redemption or forgiveness into the landscape. So we build ponds so we don't flood the Potomac during winter rainfall, and we can meter that water out in a drought in the summer and create Eden. If the amount of soil that's been moved in this Shenandoah Valley had been, instead of gone to produce corn for herbivores, which shouldn't eat corn anyway, and instead all that soil had been moved, tucking ponds in all the hills and hollers, we would absolutely be Eden here. We would be flood resistant, we would be drought resistant, and it would be a totally different situation. But instead, we turned all that soil upside down, the rain came, washed it away, and now we've got rock piles, and our fertility's gone down to the Chesapeake Bay and ruined the crab. Again, all this innate luxury we've squandered.
So it's really
our responsibility here is to recreate that indigenous resource wealth that was here before it was pillaged by Europeans. The only way revolutions happen or changes happen is one person at a time from the bottom up. It doesn't normally happen from the top down. Top down usually is circle the wagons and protect the status quo. That's top down. Bottom up is true change of whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think we're doing it.
Right.
It just the fact that this venue even exists for us to even talk and communicate with people indicates a climate of change in the countryside that, hey, somebody's watching. We think that creating a happy animal is the secret to a true happy meal, not a pseudo happy meal. But there's no happiness in that meal before the trinket that you got in it at the big the big arches.
Right. Yeah.
But there's happiness here all the way through to the plate, and we think that's part of what creates a happy culture and happy people is the way we have happy animals. Look, here's the thing, and that point is well taken. The point is, if you were wanting to create more virulent, damaging pathogens, what you would have is a confinement animal feeding operation. Right. That's exactly
and a slight amount of antibiotics and sanitization to build up their resistance
so that the survivors are stronger and more virulent and mutated. Absolutely. I mean, you could not design a more aggressive pathogen promotion farming method than the industrial crowded confinement animal feeding operation. So the thing to remember about this food safety stuff is that it's not about food safety, it's about market access. It's about under what conditions can you access the market. It has nothing to do with food safety. That's the important thing for people to understand. The beauty of these things is every time I get a visitor from a third world, from a developing country, an LDC or a developing country, all of them. Last year I had a tribal chief from Kenya come, and interestingly, the church that he was affiliated with that had sent a mission team to his tribe. One of their members is a industrial chicken grower. Well, he took him to see his chicken farm, and there was nothing there that was applicable for Kenya.
Right.
But when he came here, he said, "This is exactly what we need." And so here's what's cool. This also works in an industrial country like ours because it's so much better food, better for the environment, all those kinds of things. I've kind of developed my own little definition of truth, or one permutation of truth is that you're on to truth when it works in both developing and undeveloped countries.
Okay.
That's when you're on to agricultural truth, is when the model is just as applicable and current in a high-tech industrial country as it is in a developing country. So that's when you got something.
So we could call that appropriate technology.
Yes, absolutely.
You got the microchips in your Energizer, but you don't require the infrastructure of huge sanitization.
And thinking about those turkeys, thinking about that, you could take enough, all the high-tech infrastructure. Let's say you were on a mission trip, or you were on an agricultural help trip, okay, to a developing country. All the stuff here that they don't have, which is just the Energizer and the fencing, you could pack all that in your luggage on an airplane. Yeah. Enough to do the whole village stuff. They've got sheets of metal sitting around, they've got wood, they've got batteries, everybody's got batteries, So the really critical high-tech infrastructure is such a light footprint, it's so information dense and mass and low in mass that you could stick it in your luggage and take it for a whole village of animal control.
Yeah.
And then the beauty of that is these animals that are running around under the huts, under the squat pots, and the spreading the human. It's a sanitation problem.
Right.
Okay. Then what you do is you raise twice as many animals, but because you're able to control them and break the pathogen cycle, suddenly you have you have an anti-pathogen, hygienic, sanitary model instead of one that actually debilitates the population, makes people sick, animals sick, and is unhealthy for the village.
Right. So you've created a rotation to help with the human pathogen.
And it's all, that's why this is such an exciting time to live, is because we've never had this kind of light footprint infrastructure, high-tech infrastructure to make, to more fully respect and honor the chickenness of the chicken and the turkeyness of the turkey. I would speak to the people who trust the EPA. Why would you trust the EPA when you don't trust the Pentagon?
Yeah.
And to the people who don't trust the Pentagon, why would you trust the EPA? I mean, and to the people who don't trust the EPA, why would you trust the Pentagon? Yeah. My point is that I don't trust these government officials because basically they're all in bed with the industrial food cartel. And this ultimately represents freedom from pharmaceuticals, freedom from petroleum, freedom from trucking, and all sorts of neat things that are happening here that are freedoms. And there are a lot of people in this country that don't want you and I to really have ultimate freedom. Right. In our culture, we worship at this well, I call it pseudoscience, but it's attacking symptoms instead of real causes, and in the greater culture, people are more give more awards for creating a pharmaceutical that will keep a Tyson chicken house bird healthy than they give awards for people that figured out a way to not have to use a pharmaceutical to begin with. Right. You see what I'm saying? And so it's that lopsided idea.
Well, now the large farms aren't going to have to chip everything.
No, that's right, because
you do, but then the house doesn't.
The house can get one chip for a 15,000 bird house because it's an all-in, all-out.
So the NAIS system is requiring you to put a chip on every bird.
Right.
But the industrial large house, they don't
have to because they're an all-in, all-out. I mean,
now what does that mean?
Well, it means all 15,000 birds go in one day and they all come out one day in tractor trailers.
And so they get one chip.
So they get one chip for the whole 15,000 bird house.
And you can't chip
we
this
can't
coop?
because we're taking out 10 one day and 15 another day, and then the turkeys another day, and so we have to microchip every single bird, which of course would be completely cost prohibitive, data prohibitive, inventory prohibitive, and so these food safety laws by inaction create economic and logistical prejudice against the real answer of what they're trying to deal with.
Right. So we just went through how this system works better.
Yeah.
And yet one of the safety things has an unintended consequence of stopping you from doing the right.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
So if you had a big mortgage and had to survive, you'd have to build a house.
Yes.
And undo all of these years of effort of this past.
That's correct. Yeah. Well, we wouldn't do it. I don't know what we would do. We would go to jail. We would not comply. We would whatever. And my funny little soundbite on it is that Los Angeles County, California, has 50,000 backyard chicken flocks, many of which are fighting cocks, illegal fighting cocks, owned by Hispanics and Asians. And I'm sure that they're all going to come down to microchip their illegal, you know what I'm saying? I mean, give me a break. I mean, what are they going to do? We're going to send the Marines in to Los Angeles County to every backyard chicken flock and microchip it? It's a joke. It's crazy. But I asked a guy that was real high up in the USDA. It was actually a legislative aide for a congressman. I asked him, well, why do you? This is silly. Why do you? It's foolish. And he said, well, the people expect something.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
Well,
it doesn't matter if it works or not. All that matters is that I can send out little press releases of legislative things that I'm doing. It might be the worst thing in the world, but the people want me to do something. It's nuts. Yeah. Even with all the paranoia of industrial food, even with everybody, a lot more people interested in local, heritage-based, indigenous food, even with all that, believe me, as we take market share, as people opt out of the industrial system and we take market share, Those big boys, they don't like that.
They're not happy.
They're not happy. And so they are willing to use the power of the Attorney General, the power of government pseudoscientists to foment paranoia to get you and I to give up our food security.
Being connected with the food that you're eating, you're honoring the place, the land, also the people. When you're buying food that you have no idea who produced it, then there's a disconnect, and you no longer have to think about the conditions in which those people worked, or the economic stress or emotional stress or physical strain that went into the production of that food, or the negative environmental impact that the production of that food might have had. So when you buy when you're buying directly from the people who live around you, you have to stop and think about those things. And I think that I like to try to stop and slow down and think about my actions throughout my life. And food is just one way of doing that, of making informed choices and conscientious choices about where my money is going to support. Oftentimes making a decision to support a farmer who's producing locally, you're also oftentimes making a huge environmental decision, and buying and supporting somebody locally is always going to be a better economic or environmental decision than supporting food that's grown from far away. So for me, the environmental impact is huge. Also, the flavor and the taste, and stopping to really detect the nuances and flavor that come out of food that's prepared close to where you live, and that's really fresh, and that's grown on soil that's rich and full of life. Then a lot of times the flavor that you taste is much richer and is a much more enjoyable experience. I think that, buying from people who live around you, you're just helping to keep your money right there in your community. You're employing not only the farmer, but the people that he employs on his land. Every time he has to take his tractor to be repaired, you're also helping employ the people who work in the tractor repair place. Every time he goes and buy something from the hardware store, then your dollars are just rippling to affect a huge community, not necessarily just directly that farmer.
This land is a living thing, an organism, and that we have to take care of it. There's a stewardship quality to our relationship to the land. And the best way to do that, again, I find, is to introduce people to local food, to get to know their farmer, to find that their dollar matters, how they spend that food budget dollar matters, and I think to allow folks to get a chance to do some farming. So I'm very thrilled with urban farming. I helped to get the urban farm going at 6th and Monticello, because I felt this was one way of tying people to the land, to growing things, to the miracle of growing things, and then to tying them to the other parts of Albemarle County and the farms there, and deeper into Nelson County and all the other places. There's such a disconnect between farms and urban living, and we need to reconnect people. And I think the best way to do that is to bring it into their neighborhoods so they're curious about it, and they can now just discover that Polyface Farm is just over the mountain, and Davis Creek Farm is right down in Livingston, and Planet Earth Diversified is just up the road from Charlottesville. These places invite people to come and visit. I mean, this is a whole community that is all about agriculture. It's not just these isolated farmers.
I have never seen so many people so excited about fruits and vegetables.
From arugula to zucchini at the White House, Fresh Farm Market. Here we are today in front of the White House. Just across the park in Vermont and H, there's a whole farm market. The street's closed. There are 19 vendors. There are 2,000 people buying food as they come out of the office and get on the metro to head home. There's a special program where WIC coupons and food stamps are doubled in value for individuals who want to use EBT here at a farmer's market. Let's go talk to some of the vendors and find out how fresh food comes right from the local farms, right here within the Chesapeake Bay watershed, right here to the White House in Washington, D.C.
To me, it's like the most farmers markets for most people is like that mega mart mentality. You walk into one of those giant stores and the lights are so bright and there's so much stuff everywhere, you don't know where to start. And you're so intimidated, you end up with this tiny little basket or bag full of products.
Yeah.
But if we approach something different here, like kale or Brussels sprouts or cabbage or something that they were either kind of turned off at their youth or they think it takes too much time to cook.
I guess people are so used to those frozen packages of greens that taste terrible.
Frozen packages of greens, or like my grandmother and even my mother, boiling them down because they feel like these tough greens, you need a lot of water and you got to stew them until they fall apart, and that's not the case.
Well, tell us about this program here.
This
You all
is-
take food stamps here at the market.
We do take food stamps. This is the third farmers market that we take food stamps on. We started last year at our 8th Street Northeast Market and our Silver Spring, Maryland market. So we'd already had a track record in doing food stamps at markets. So when we decided to do this White House market, we said, let's try and add this food stamp component to our farmers market. And so USDA said, sure, you've got a track record, you do good record keeping, you can do that. So this fresh food got cheaper, though, is the fact that we're doing this Double Dollars program. So that's a little bit on top of the food stamps. So if you're a food stamp or a WIC or a senior coupon customer and you come to our information table here and say you want to do $20 worth of food stamps today, we say that's great, we'll swipe your card, give you your $20 worth of tokens to shop in the market, and then we say, and we're giving you 20 more free dollars to shop in the farmers market. So their $20 is really $40 worth of food in the market. What it is we have a big record keeping system. At the end of the market, our staff person goes around, takes those pieces of script and tokens, gives them a receipt. We collect all the paperwork, and at the end of the month, I then reimburse them for a month's worth of those, because they didn't get any money until we paid them back.
Right.
The great thing about this is that it is getting people that maybe aren't used to being in a farmer's market setting and shopping in a farmer's market for food. It's getting them used to the habit of coming to a farmer's market.
Right.
So
And it's a great way to double their money.
it's double the money, make the food a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
And get them to try this wonderful local food that we have here. It is so delicious. And that's what we want to do, is get people hooked on that local food. So the money for this program, the initial grant came from Wholesome Wave Foundation, which is, that's the Paul Newman Foundation up in Connecticut. And then we've gotten individuals to contribute and make generous gifts, so we got additional money that way. And then a foundation in DC gave us money. So I'm guessing that we will likely spend about $20,000. I mean, giving away $20,000 in free food coupons to people to eat more healthy because of the markets.
That's terrific.
It's terrific. It's really a win-win.
Well, Richard, as a fellow farmer, is there anything else we didn't cover?
We covered a lot of stuff. I don't know what else, if you get it. If it isn't right on the tip of our tongue, if it ain't really on the tip of our tongues.
Well, thank you for watching another Meet the Farmer TV.
This program is a production of Meet the Farmer TV, LLC, in association with Planet Earth Diversified, Nelly Productions, and Leslie P. Jenkins Photography and Graphic Design. For additional information and extended versions of this program, visit our website, www.meetthefarmer.com.